In Ukraine, thousands of people are facing major blackouts after another night of intense Russian attacks. The southern port city of Odessa and its power grid came under particularly heavy fire. The government in Kyiv says Russia launched hundreds of drones and at least 30 ballistic missiles overnight. Elsewhere, at least 2 people were reported killed in Russian drone attacks. Meanwhile, preparations are underway for another round of talks aimed at ending the war in Ukraine. U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, who was in Moscow earlier this month, is due to meet Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and other European leaders in Berlin. Let's bring in DW's chief political editor, Michaela Küffner. She's standing by at a CSU party congress in Munich, where Chancellor Friedrich Merz will speak later today. Michaela, any chance we could see a truce before Christmas?
Well, that's the big hope, but it's very likely in terms of the timeline. We're already hearing out of Moscow, even before it has seen the latest proposal that is due to be hammered out from the side of Ukraine, its allies and the US, that this whole process will take a long time. So clearly Moscow is interested to still be seen as a side that is interested in peace, in some kind of truce, but it might well choose to take a long time to respond and to then start, of course, negotiating over details. Moscow is already saying that it feels that that initial 28-point plan that really shocked the Europeans, that would be, and I quote, worsened. That's what a spokesman said there. That's exactly the intention from the Ukrainian and the European side. It simply was unacceptable to see Ukraine put in a position where it has to make major concessions in terms of territory and gets very little in exchange, let alone the economic interests that are coming into place. We know that the US side, that Donald Trump personally is interested in getting a peace, as all sides will then agree to call it, signed as soon as possible. And the fact that Steve Witkoff is coming and Jared Kushner, his son-in-law, is also expected in Berlin to sit down with officials from the Ukrainian side, sit down with Zelensky, with the Europeans, with NATO. That is an indication that there clearly is big progress in the making to produce something that would then be looked at by Moscow and potentially frowned upon. But there are still major sticking points, like the accession, how fast there could be an accession of Ukraine to the European Union. Currently, we're hearing it could be as early as 2027. That won't go down well with the Russian side for sure. And what territorial concessions there be, whether there will be an effectively demilitarized zone, whether Russia also has to withdraw forces, and most importantly, what security guarantees does Witkoff have that the United States would be willing to give Ukraine, that has basically set that for sure as a precondition.
And Michaela, briefly, the meetings happen here in Germany. Can you tell us more about that and Germany's role?
Well, it was German Chancellor Friedrich Merz who got Donald Trump on the phone after that 28-point plan was tabled initially. We learned that has been reduced to more around about 20 points now, deducting, pulling some of the stings out of this. So clearly there is a rapport between Friedrich Merz and Donald Trump that he is now using. The fact that he's getting everybody around the table, of course, except Russia, that is a signal of Germany being a major diplomatic player, more so than Europe, than Brussels, than Ursula von der Leyen, the EU Commission President. But that's no surprise, of course, because we just saw that new security strategy come out that was very condescending of the European Union itself. So this is a good sign for Germany being able to be a negotiator, a mediator here. But let's wait what comes out of this by Monday.
DW's Michaela Küffner, thank you. Now, for more, let's bring in DW's Russia analyst, Konstantin Eggert. Konstantin, welcome. What do you make of this new diplomatic push? Do you think there's a chance that it could lead to a viable peace plan?
Well, it could lead to new plan that will be written up. We've heard that, for example, the American administration has heard the concerns in Kyiv about the fate of Donbass, the eastern bulk of Ukraine, if you wish, and there are conversations about making it a demilitarized zone rather than just hand it over to Russia. So in this respect, yes, it seems like there is movement between Western allies, especially Europeans, and the government of Ukraine. In this respect, yes, we could see some kind of new set of proposals, or rather updated set of proposals, as a result of the meetings of the European leaders with President Zelensky of Ukraine, and then later, I think in about a couple of days, the meeting between Chancellor Friedrich Merz and Zelensky.
Is there any chance Russia would actually consider anything that's agreed on here in Berlin, or are Moscow's demands essentially set in stone?
Tony, the short answer is no, and we can move to another question. The longer answer will be, I do think that it's not going to be an immediate no by the Russians. They will continue to press and present some kind of demands that will look as if they are, or rather produce an impression that they are negotiating. But personally, I do not think that the Kremlin is, or actually was from the beginning, in any mood to strike a peace deal. What they do want are conversations about peace. And this is a completely different matter. They want to protract this process, while I think Putin thinks that he has an upper hand on the battlefield. And essentially, I do not think his calculation changed for years. He wants to wear down Ukraine, break it, and then put it under Russia's full political control.
And of course, all of this is coming as the EU is working on freezing 200 billion euros in Russian assets. How do you think this move could affect the wider peace effort?
Well, I think it will impact the tone. And by the way, it will give the Russians an excuse to say, sorry, we're leaving any time. But I do not think the Kremlin will leave the process just now. What they would rather design are some kind of measures against the Europeans. Against the EU. Maybe there's going to be some confiscation of European property, remaining European properties in Russia proper. I do not think it will lead to an immediate breakdown in talks, because protracting them, as I already said, is something that I think the Kremlin counts on now. They do not want to see a situation in which they will break off the talks, and then Trump suddenly will say, well, by the way, now you can do whatever you want with the Russians. And then the Ukrainians and the Europeans will have basically much freer hands to deal with Moscow.
DW Russia analyst Konstantin Eggert, thank you for that.
Thanks.